Hey guys, Dan here with your Connors review for the week. This episode is called Tempest in a Stew Pot. Welcome to the show. So we've sort of hit on a couple of bye weeks for the Connors. Last week they had Little Mermaid, and then the week before that there was an episode. The week before that was the Peanuts Great Pumpkin. So we haven't gotten 2 weeks in a row of the Connors in a little while, but here we've got 3 weeks in a row, starting with this episode. So I'm looking forward to seeing where the show goes from here. The momentum has been great. The last episode I loved. A lot of you agreed with me in the comments. A couple of you did not. So hopefully this episode had something for everybody. I enjoyed this one, but not as much as I did the previous episode, but I did enjoy this one as well. So let's talk about the plot first, and then I'll give you my synopsis. So here we have, I guess the A story is about the whole blow up between Darlene and then Jackie and Becky, and it results in Becky moving out. She's going to move in with Jackie now that Bev has moved into the Connor house. So that's basically, the A story. And then there's a B story about one of Harris's friends who we met in a previous episode. She is the stoner friend of Harris's, and she gets in even more trouble this week, so much so that she is actually banned from the house. Dan has banned her because they took his motorcycle out without his permission, and the mirror broke, and it was a rough go. So that's basically the A and the B story, and that's it. I mean, there's a little thing with Mark making Thanksgiving centerpieces for everyone individually, which actually plays into both the A and the B story, because people are sort of coming and going in the Thanksgiving dinner, because now Jackie and Becky might not come because they're so angry at Darlene, and Harris's friend was going to come, and so Mark made a centerpiece, and now she's not invited anymore. So very slickly, the C story plays into both the A and the B. So I thought it was a very well put together episode, as you might have guessed from the synopsis. Everything sort of works very mechanically and very well, like a well-oiled sitcom should. Here's what I really liked about the episode, is that it knew where the focus was. Even though I loved the last episode, my one complaint with it was that, okay, they finally gave DJ and Mary something to do, but it was shoehorned in so that it was way too short of a plot point. I wouldn't even say it wrapped up too quickly, because it didn't wrap up. It just sort of was for like a scene and a half, and then it didn't exist anymore. And then this episode we didn't see DJ or Mary. So, bye. And look, I like a lot of things that they've been doing this season. There's some, obviously, I don't like too. But, one of the things I like was the Ben and David love triangle with Darlene. That has run its course in terms of the triangle part, and now Darlene and Ben have to work together and work through that. Well, Ben wasn't in this episode either. We didn't see Darlene at work at all in this episode, and I think it really worked. We focused just on the family, and no DJ or Mary, so nothing to... Every time DJ comes on the screen, for me, it's almost distracting, because I know that they're either not going to give him anything to do, or he's going to have one line, he's going to say it poorly, and then they're going to move on to the next scene. So I love that he wasn't in this episode, to be honest. I honestly, and I've voiced this many times before, I honestly think they should just write him out of the show. Him and Mary both. They don't know what to do with these characters, so just leave them be. Have them move away. Gina's already gone. Have them move, and be a military family with Gina, wherever they sent her. So I love that he wasn't in the episode, because it didn't miss a beat. Now, I am kind of bummed that Bev wasn't in the episode. I know that Estelle Parsons is in her 90s, so obviously her time on the show is going to be a bit limited. But now that she's living at the Connors house, and she was certainly referenced a couple of times in this episode, I wish we saw her as well, but I know that that may not always be feasible. She may only be able to physically handle you know, I don't know, 3 or 4 episodes a season or something like that. I don't know. So I like that they at least referenced her in the sense that we know she's living there, because we found that out at the end of the last episode. But, you know, she's staying on the couch, so where is she? They're doing all these scenes in the living room, and then Dan actually says she's in, you know, my bed taking a nap, and so he, you know, made a joke about that. So I like that they're referencing her, and Roseanne really, to me, is one of the forefathers of this serialized sitcom, because most of the hit shows that came before it, there were some threads throughout, like maybe as kids were growing older, okay, well, now this person's going off to college, or, you know, this person's starting high school, or whatever. There's sort of, you know, time measurements, but in terms of major plot points, when I think back to the shows before Roseanne that were sitcoms, you know, Cosby, you could pretty much jump in anywhere. But there again, it's like, okay, if one of the kids went off to school, all right. But when I think of, you know, some of the best sitcoms of all time, even dating back to I Love Lucy, yes, okay, fine, Lucy goes to Connecticut, and so now we'll have 13 episodes in Connecticut. So it's sort of like I don't know what you'd call it. And not a plot point necessarily, but a whole, like, segment of the show. Okay, fine. Now this person is doing this. But in terms of the episodes, they still weren't serialized, you know? Same with Leave It to Beaver. Like, Leave It to Beaver, okay, the kids grew every year and had different teachers and, you know, all that kind of stuff. But the plot points were not episode by episode serialized as The Conners now is. Pretty much most sitcoms are nowadays. And Roseanne, to me, is one of the pioneers of that, you know. So I love that they're sort of bringing that back, because the last season, you know, there was some of that, but I think the overall arc of last season was Roseanne is dead, family needs to move on. How do we pick up the pieces, you know? And it was a little bit serialized, but now we've got real, you know, juicy plot points. And there's still a lot of shows that are not serialized, you know, the Goldbergs, Blackish, they certainly come to mind, maybe Fresh Off the Boat too. Thinking of all these ABC shows, but there's, you know, CBS shows too, Mom, and, you know, they're a little bit serialized, but for the most part, not as much. So I love that we're really diving in headfirst to this let's buy the lunchbox plot, Darlene having control of Bev's finances, you know, Jackie and Becky being mad at Darlene because of that. I love that they gave Darlene control of the finances. I love that there's a joke in there about Dan's finances, and she's like, well, you don't have anything anyway. So I like that they're really going back to their serialized roots with this, because this entire episode, if you missed the last episode, you would certainly be a little bit lost as to what's going on. But with, you know, the nature today of DVRs and on demand, and you know, the episodes going up on Hulu the next day, there's no reason to really fall behind. So if it's a show that you like, you'll follow along every episode anyway. So it works perfectly. I did not think this episode was quite as funny as the last episode, but there were definitely some good jokes. I think they might have been trying a little too hard with Becky on the jokes, and the whole back and forth, you know, insult wise with her and Darlene. The thing that really kind of gets me down about this episode is the subplot with Harris was good. I liked it. However, it treads on, you know, old ground, specifically the whole motorcycle thing, because Becky took Dan's motorcycle when she first started dating Mark, and that was a big blow up, and Dan wasn't talking to her and all this. So it's like we already sort of had a child takes Dan's motorcycle plot in the original Roseanne. So I certainly have to dock the show for that, for the lack of originality in that specific thing. Especially because I feel like what they've built with this character is a reputation of being a bad girl. You know, she has gotten Harris into smoking pot. She probably is the one who got Harris into selling the pot. They never really quite revisited that plot point from the season premiere, but I believe it's the same friend. So, you know, and then Harris is kind of doing the same thing that Becky did with Mark. It's funny, she's not necessarily reliving her mother's mistakes, she's reliving her Aunt Becky's mistakes. And of course, Aunt Becky, you think of Full House, and she's made tons of mistakes lately. But anyway, that's aside. So, you know, they're sort of treading on already done plot points with Harris. And a couple of my commenters on my channel have suggested that maybe they should write Harris out. You know, I'm always suggesting they write DJ out, write Harris out maybe. I still am not quite on board with that. I think she's a good character, but I think they have to give her new things to do that maybe her mom or her aunt didn't already go through. I mean, I think there is something to be said for kids maybe doing the same things that their other family members have done or that their parents have done. So, you know, does it ring true? Yeah, I suppose so. But I think there are so many other things they could have done to get Harris's friend kicked out of the house that maybe taking the motorcycle wasn't the most clever idea. And then just the same at the end of the episode where she lies to her mom about not going to see her, and then she goes and sees her. I mean, that's right out of the Becky and Mark playbook from the original series. So, definitely loses some points for lack of originality. But I love what they're doing with the Lanford Lunchbox plot points. I love the family dynamic and the infighting. I love that it's put Dan in this horrible position. I mean, I feel bad for him, but as for a plot point, I love it because he is just getting over the worst year of his life. And this was really the only mention of Roseanne in this episode, as the nod to her is when Dan says, "I'm getting over the worst year of my life." We know that means the death of my wife. But that was the only sort of Roseanne mention that I could think of. But, you know, he's caught between the two worlds because obviously he wants to support Darlene. I think he realizes that giving them the Lanford lunchbox or selling them the Lanford lunchbox is probably not the best idea. I think he realizes that, but he doesn't necessarily want to take sides in that debate. I think, you know, he just wants everybody to be happy and keep the peace because he loves this baby of Becky's. And I thought it was a great touch that the opening scene was Dan and little baby Bev, you know, having breakfast together. It was real sweet, and then they were able to call back to it later on in the episode. So I really liked that part, and I feel for him. I feel bad that, you know, the infighting in the family is sort of breaking up his relationship now with his newest granddaughter. So, a lot of good things in this episode. It was directed by Fred Savage, who, you know, my good old buddy from the Wonder Years 25 years ago, who I still enjoy as an actor very much. I loved that one season show he and Rob Lowe did, The Grinder, and he's been directing for years. I mean, he's directed a lot of Always Sunny episodes. I didn't even think of that when I wore this shirt, but I love Always Sunny, so he's directed a bunch of those episodes and a bunch of other things over the years. I believe this is his first Connors directed episode, unless he did one last season. Okay, he did do Rage Against the Machine last season, which is the one with DJ and Dan at work. Oh, and he also did one Flew Over the Connors Nest. So, okay, so he's done a few Connors episodes already. So, okay, cool. I mean, the guy's got a great eye for both single-camera comedies and multi-camera setups like this. And I think that probably comes from his history with the Wonder Years, because in an era of pretty much only laugh track sitcoms or studio audience sitcoms, Wonder Years did not do any of that. It was, you know, shot on film, and it was sort of a it didn't look like anything else on TV. Let's just say that. So I love that he is hard at work. I think he did a great job directing this episode. The only reason I can't grade it quite as high as last episode, other than I didn't laugh quite as hard, but I like the plot points that they're doing, but I don't like that the way they're getting there is some retread stuff. Specifically with Harris and the friend. I think the stuff with the Lanford lunchbox is awesome. I love that they're doing that. You know, them going back to that well is cool because it's a completely different angle with Darlene holding the control of the finances. But yeah, taking Dan's bike out, that's old news. You know, lying to your parents about the friend that they told you to never see again, that's old news. I think they could have at least changed one, if not both of those things to get to the same end result, but maybe get there differently. So for that, I will give this episode of The Conners a B. I teetered on a B+, but I think for originality's sake, I do need to bump it down to a B. But I'm very excited. I think we've gotten 2 real good episodes in a row. I love that we're getting an episode next week, and then the week after as well. And then there's a week hiatus on December 3rd. I don't know what exactly is going on, or if they're just doing a night of reruns or whatever. But then the next episode after that will be on December 10th. So we're getting them, you know, in pretty good succession now that Charlie Brown Halloween and Little Mermaid is over. But that's it for the show. So I'll be back next week with another Conners episode. My next episode of TV News and Reviews will be all about Apple TV Plus. Which I tried to watch earlier today, but it was the premiere day for it, so I got about 10 minutes in, and then it was just lag city, so I said I'll just try it another day, because I probably won't have the review up till the weekend anyway. So that is coming up, and then, yeah, tons of other stuff on the channel all the time. We're doing full-length Disney movies from back in the day. Also some Frasier reviews and great stuff like that. So thanks for watching, and please comment below. I do always love hearing from you, even if it's a disagreement. I'm always happy to hear your thoughts, and hopefully this is an episode everybody enjoyed. Maybe more than the last one. But that's it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.